guys, Colin Cowherd came out with a list yesterday. NFC quarterbacks, ranked them, I believe, 1 through 8. I don't know how I felt about this list. I'm curious to see how you guys feel about this list, and we're going to give our opinion. Alex, if you have the list, can you throw it up? So here you go. The NFC's top quarterbacks. He has Matthew Stafford, which somebody we're very familiar with at number 1. Okay. Over Jalen Hurts. Interesting. Jalen Hurts is number 2. 3 Goff. 4 Kyler Murray. 5 Dak Prescott. 6 Derek Carr. 7 Kirk Cousins. And 8 Geno Smith. So, Sam, when you look at that list, what pops out to you first?
I mean, one thing that pops out to me is the Stafford at number 1. I know we're going to get into our own list in the next segment, but to me, Stafford at number 1, I think people forget what he did in 2021. Obviously, last year was
unbelievable.
Was injury prone, and even when he played, he didn't look like the same QB. And another one that really stands out to me, which I think that you will disagree with, Kyler Murray at 4. And I actually think, and I know that I might be on an island on this one, this idea that Kyler Murray has just been a complete and utter flop in the NFL, I think is a little bit overblown. But like, what were they before he got there? They were coming off of the Josh Rosen disaster, and he at least got them to the playoffs, and he's put up good numbers. Do I think he's number 4? Not necessarily, but it just kind of shows to the maybe respect that some people still have for him. But obviously, when we're in Detroit, we're Lions fans, we look at Jared Goff at number 3. And that kind of, think about how crazy that would have sounded at the beginning of 2021, that Jared Goff would be ranked as the number 3 quarterback by a guy like Colin Cowherd. And in my personal opinion, I have him one spot too high. I would put him at number 4, but that's no disrespect to Jared Goff. You'll see my list later. Jared Goff, the last season, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, led him to the 5th highest scoring offense in the NFL. And that 8-2 stretch to end the year, 17 touchdowns, 1 pick, obviously unbelievable. The connection that he built with Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of like the Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, absolutely elite. And in his last 24 games played, 40 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Jared Goff absolutely deserves the acclaim that he's gotten. He deserved a Pro Bowl selection last year, which he got as an alternate. I think he should have just been in outright. I think that kind of speaks to the season that he had, because I know a lot of people, there's a lot of debate on Jared Goff, whether he's the quarterback of the future, whether we should draft one, whether we should extend him, yada, yada, yada. But I think we all universally agree he had a damn good season last year, and you can win with Jared Goff, and he is under contract for 2 more years. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Jared Goff is the guy that at least leads you to your first division title in how many years? Since basically right when I was born.
And that's the problem I think I have with lists like this, is which direction are you going in? Are you going in who's better as in body of work, or who's coming off the best season? That's the stuff I think that gets mixed up. Like, for example, I see people talking about Aaron Rodgers. That's the first thing I noticed, is where's Aaron Rodgers? Now, if Colin's thinking of, well, he'll be in the AFC next year, okay. Or if he's going off, well, he didn't play well last year, okay. Then why do you have Matthew Stafford? So if we're going off last year, Matthew shouldn't be on this list. And I'm a big Matthew supporter. Me and Adam defended him pretty much all year until he won a Super Bowl. But still, I don't get how you're measuring this, because Jalen Hurts had the best year out of anybody in the NFC.
For sure.
Should be number 1. There shouldn't even be a debate there. Now, if you want to put Stafford up there because of his body of work, then Aaron Rodgers deserves to be up there. And I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, but the truth is the truth. So I don't have a problem with Goff at 3, but be consistent. Like, what's your argument? Like, Murray, you got Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith. I mean, if there was one of these quarterbacks to remove, I mean, I think it would have to be Geno Smith. I'm sorry. Like, and again, that's the decision, right? If you're going off last year, Geno deserves to be in it. But if we're going off body of work, then you put Aaron over Geno Smith and figure it out. I don't know. And that's what I hate about lists like this. There's never any clarity. It's just kind of like, all right, let's just put quarterbacks together.
I mean, more on Aaron Rodgers later. That's a little bit of foreshadowing for my list. But Geno Smith, it's so funny because he had the most random Pro Bowl season, I think, in NFL history. People forget that he was drafted by the Jets in 2013. The last time he was a full-time starter was 2014. When it looked like the Seattle Seahawks were going to either start Geno Smith or Drew Lock, they were mocked and laughed at mercilessly, and I thought rightfully so. And then when they decided Geno Smith, I even was like, oh, good luck good luck, guys.
They wrote him off. He didn't write back.
You guys are, that's exactly what he said. You guys are going to be in the cellar, and we're just going to laugh at you because Geno Smith is your starter. But he ended up throwing 30 touchdown passes, leading him to the playoffs, having a season that was absolutely worthy of a Pro Bowl. I don't know. And you know what's funny about guys like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr? When it's all said and done, even though they haven't won a whole lot, I think a lot of that isn't all their fault for what I'm about to say. You're going to look back at them, and when you look back at the NFL history in, say, 40, 50 years, you're going to look at guys like Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins as like, why aren't these guys in the Hall of Fame, but guys like Warren Moon and Dan Fouts are? And I know there's a lot of context. It was a different NFL back then, but these guys put up numbers year in, year out. I mean, Derek Carr has led the Raiders to the playoffs a couple of times, and Kirk Cousins as well. Led him to the playoffs this year. Obviously, that was pretty fraudulent, and he actually had one of the worst years of his career. But it's just so funny with these NFC quarterbacks that it also speaks to how weak the NFC quarterback class is compared to the AFC. It's insane.
That's the big thing to take away, right? As much as we can give Goff credit and admit that, and we'll get to it, I want to tease where I have him on my list, but he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC. But that also says a lot about the NFC and the quarterback position. Grit says on woodwardsports.com, Goff benefited from Johnson's offense. Well, I don't like that narrative either, because you could say that about a lot of other quarterbacks. I mean, does Jalen Hurts benefit from having Shane Steichen or Nick Sirianni?
Sure.
No, well, Jalen Hurts is talented. Well, can we give credit to Jared Goff as well? Like, I'm not a big fan of that narrative either. Nick says on woodwardsports.com, Stafford looked awful before he got hurt too. He threw more picks in 6 games than Goff did in 17.
That's actually true.
And that's true. Yeah. Like, that's why I don't understand which direction Colin's approaching this in, and that's why I love these lists, because it's all for engagement anyway. Blade says, every quarterback benefits from something. You don't think Mahomes benefits from Andy Reid?
Yep.
Not saying Andy Reid's the sole reason, but yes, he does that. Of course, you're going to benefit from great coaching. Greg says, if the Lions get Lamar, he would be number 1. Okay, well, I can't wait for this Lamar talk.
We'll talk about that.
It's going to get good. Grit says, Ben Johnson got Goff a quarterbacking for dummies book, and all of a sudden he's the greatest thing to have Lions fans. How do you feel about that narrative? Because I hate, again, coaching matters. I think coaching in the NFL matters the most, because there's so many. You have positional coaches, you have quarterback coaches, offensive coordinators. I mean, those coaches have their fingers in so many things in the playbook that coaching matters in the NFL. I agree with you 100%. But the players got to go out there and execute.
100%.
Like, so, again, I'm not a huge fan of that narrative. Like Russ, for example, you leave Pete Carroll, he takes a complete crap over in Denver. But still, that could go both ways. So if you want to say coaching is a big part of it, I understand. But to say that's everything and without good coaching, a quarterback is nothing, it's a little overreactive.
I'll tell you what, though, and I don't necessarily agree with that narrative entirely, but if you want to look at Jared Goff's tenure just in Detroit, when he had Anthony Lynn as his offensive coordinator, Jared Goff was objectively, I don't even want to say terrible. He was just a non-factor. He was near the bottom of quarterbacks in the NFL. And almost the second that Ben Johnson got elevated to passing game coordinator last season and was offensive coordinator this year, Jared Goff all of a sudden turned into borderline elite, maybe by the numbers actually elite, playing the best football of his career, in my opinion, and definitely the best football of his career since the 2018 season when he helped lead the Los Angeles Rams to the Super Bowl. So, Jared Goff, you have to have a talented quarterback that can execute that offense. But at the same time, Ben Johnson, when you look at the NFL right now, you want a young, innovative offensive mind that can help orchestrate the offense. And Jared Goff obviously had one before in Sean McVay, but even at the end of their tenure, it didn't look so good. That's why they had to go get Matthew Stafford so they could finally win a Super Bowl. So quarterbacks and coaching, it's a complementary relationship. I don't want to act like one is just terrible without the other. You have to have both, unless you're a guy who's just all-world talented. But even Patrick Mahomes, he's got Andy Reid. Even Josh Allen had Brian Daboll. And, you have to have a little bit of both.
You do. And Foki says, pre-Ben Johnson, what did Goff do with this offense? Well,
very little.
More, but that's more than just pre-Ben Johnson. Like, Ben Johnson had an effect. I mean, that's why me and Adam sat up here and pounded the table when he was a pass game coordinator to make him OC. Like, that was what we did for months. So I get it, Funky, but at the same time, Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't emerge yet. I mean, there's a lot of things that didn't happen yet. And you could give credit to Ben for that as well, but still, the offense wasn't as rolling as it was the following year. Yes, because of Ben, but also because they got healthier. You added DJ Chark. You had Jameson down the stretch of the last games. Like, there was other things that happened as well. Frank was out the entire season that year. He was the offensive line played every game pretty much together. At least the 4 guys did for the most part. So a lot of other things happened as well. I don't want to say it was all just because of Ben Johnson. I think a lot of it is, but come on, you got to give Jared Goff some credit.
Sure.
I hate that as well, like taking everything away from Jared because Ben was there. It's just, I don't know. I'm not in the same boat as it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And you even look at a Jalen Hurts. We talk about Shane Steichen. We look at Jalen Hurts' development. Even last season, he only threw 16 touchdown passes. People were still sort of thinking that maybe he isn't the quarterback of the future. And then once they get him, his number 1 receiver in A.J. Brown, and they have another year under the Shane Steichen system, then Jalen Hurts emerges. And we're going to see how he's going to perform next season without Shane Steichen. And the great thing about Jared Goff and his future with the Lions, Ben Johnson is actually coming back. I think we all expected that Ben Johnson would take a head coaching job. If I were an NFL team, I would have absolutely hired Ben Johnson as a head coach, but he stayed. And you got Amon-Ra St. Brown coming back. The offensive line is intact. We assume we're going to have DeAndre Swift, which is kind of We assume we're going to re-sign Jamal Williams, maybe draft another guy. Jameson Williams gets back involved. This is an offense that, be prepared for Jared Goff to put up Pro Bowl-like numbers again. Because by the situation, it looks like it's going to happen. There's no evidence that shows me that he is going to regress this year.
And whenever you go into the second year under the same OC, like consistently, you will get better, assuming. And that's on Goff. We'll see. Like, you should. Now he's more comfortable with the offense, the rapport between him and pretty much all the receivers, even the tight ends this year. It's on point. And assuming that, you find another weapon, we'll see what happens with DJ Chark if you're able to re-sign him. But yeah, I think Goff is in for maybe even a better year, if not a similar year. There's no excuse why he shouldn't have one. So